Hey guys, Redneck Mini 14 here. Just want to do a quick comparison of the Ruger Mark 1, Mark 2, and Mark 3. So I just picked up Mark 1. I've had a Mark 2. There's been a Mark 2 in my house for longer than I've been alive. And I got this Mark 3 a couple years ago, I think. And I just want to go through the different variations of the standard pistol, the Ruger standard pistol. I don't have a Mark IV yet. I probably will someday, and I'll probably do an updated version of this video. But until then, this is the Mark I, Mark II, and Mark III. So, let's start with the Mark I, of course. The Mark I, or the Ruger Standard Auto, whatever you want to call it, was the first pistol that Bill Ruger ever designed, and it was the first gun that Ruger, Sturm Ruger and Company, ever produced and sold in the United States. Now, it's basically, I think the story goes that Bill Ruger, he made drills, like hand drills, and basically what he did was he took the frame of the drill that he had designed and put a receiver on the top with a cylindrical bolt that moved inside of it, and then obviously the receiver and barrel was all one piece, and that's how he came up with the Ruger Standard. And of course it's designed after the Japanese Nambu and kind of sort of the German Luger, and you can tell that just by the look of it and how it is designed. And so that's how the Ruger Standard pistol came about. Obviously there's way more to that story than what I told, but it's basically just a tube, a cylindrical tube with a barrel and a chamber and a cylindrical bolt on top of a frame with a trigger and an internal single action only mechanism. So it has an internal hammer that is single action only, so this isn't a double action, single action, it's just a single action. You know, it's a semi-automatic pistol. It fires from it feeds from a 9-shot magazine. Now these originally, I believe, were high standard magazines that were retrofitted to fit the Ruger. And they originally came with a 9-round magazine. The original models had this loading assist button on the other side. So that's one way you can tell whether you have like an older original Mark I standard or if you have a newer one, which this one is a newer one. They started making them in 1949. This one, it was made in 1974. So I'm not exactly sure when the changeover happened from having the button from the right side to the left side, but this one was made after that change. There's not a whole lot of controls, very simple sights. Now there were target models which were considered to be the Mark I. This is actually just considered to be a standard auto pistol. So the Mark I was actually more of the target model of the day. But very few controls. Obviously your trigger, and here's your safety. It's just a little like circular knob. Up is safe and down is fire. Here's your mag release on the bottom here, like European style. And then you charge the pistol by pulling back on the bolt. There is no last shot hold open or bolt release or bolt hold open, whatever you want to call it, on this pistol. The only bolt hold open is the safety itself. There's a notch here and there's a notch further in on the bolt for the pistol, the safety to catch on. So anyway, that's the Mark I. Again, it has all these pistols have these plastic grips. They all came with black plastic grips. The older pistols only have the Ruger logo on the right side where your hand would be if you're a right-handed shooter. They didn't have it on the left side. So that's the Mark I, or the standard. The Mark II came about in the 1980s. I want to say it was somewhere between like 1982 and 1985, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll annotate it. But they had a few changes. One, they updated the magazine to hold 10 rounds, so no longer 9 rounds, and it was an actual Ruger branded magazine. You can see that little Ruger logo on the bottom there, like they have on all the new production magazines these days. The original standard only had a chrome, like a nickel plated or chrome plated butt plate, if you can see that. So they updated the magazine, still has the same magazine release, same single action only firing mechanism, same basic overall look. They added a last shot hold open with this little lever right here, so you have a separate bolt release, bolt hold open aside from the safety. So the safety now does not go up into the bolt like the original one did. It's the same safety though, so up for safe and down for fire. They milled out back here where these ears are, so you can get your fingers on there on the bolt a little easier. So that's kind of nice. Other than that, it's pretty much the same gun. It comes down the same, has the same sights. Now, of course, with the Mark II, and I guess the Mark I still had different variations and different models. I mean, these are all just the standard barrel profile, the tapered barrel profile on all three of these. Of course, there are target models, with bull barrels, different lengths, and even the tapered barrels have different lengths. These two are 4 3/4 of an inch barrels, I believe, and this one's a 6-inch. We'll get to that in a minute. But there's like target models with different grips and all these different kind of things. They have stainless steel model Mark IIs. I don't know if they had stainless steel Mark Is. I don't ever recall seeing one. They might have made them, but every Mark I I've ever seen was blued. I haven't seen a whole lot of them, so I can't really say whether they made it or not. But anyway, after the Mark II was the Mark III, and I believe the Mark III came around in either 2004 or 2005, and it had, again, it has the same basic look, but it added a few things. Now, I added these white ivory looking grips. I got them on sale, and I just thought they made the pistol pop a little. That's the only reason it has white grips. I do still have the black grips. But speaking of the grips, the Mark III came with Allen head screws, whereas the older two models came with flat-headed screws. I don't know if all of them came with these Allen head screws or not, but mine did. Still have your bolt hold open and your safety. It's the same. They changed the mag release to a standard push button mag release, and there is a magazine disconnect, so you cannot pull the trigger while the magazine is not in the gun. I don't really like that. That can be taken out if you wish. There is a loaded chamber indicator. It's going to be kind of hard to see here. My lighting is not in the best spot for this, but there is a loaded chamber indicator. Yeah, I don't know. My lighting is not in the best position for this, but as you can see, there is a loaded chamber indicator, this little line here. When you have a round in the chamber, this sticks out, and it's actually got a little red mark on it, so you know if the gun has a round in the chamber. The ears for the bolt have now been tapered, so now not only has the receiver itself been milled out for better access, but the ears themselves are tapered. So it just allows for a little bit better grip I don't really notice too big of a difference either way, but that's just a change that they had. Again, last shot hold open. Let me see here. So my particular Mark II is not drilled and tapped for like scope mounts and stuff, but I think some of them were, like the Target models. I think those might have been drilled and tapped. The Mark IIIs, all the Mark IIIs that I've ever seen are drilled and tapped for scope mounts or sight mounts, whatever you want to put in there. And really, that's it as far as changes go. Everything else is pretty much the same between all of these. As you can see, like, it went from a very simple, basic, you know, no frills pistol, and then it came up, it had a few more options, a few more ergonomical advantages in the Mark II. And then when you get to the Mark III, you start having, you know, some added benefits with the push button mag release, but then you also have some other things that are more like banned state approved and California approved, you know, whatever you want to call them, with the magazine disconnect and the loaded chamber indicator. And from what I know, the Mark IVs also have a magazine disconnect, but they don't have a loaded chamber indicator. So Ruger is kind of coming away from having all these special safety features to appease states like California and New York, and they're just kind of doing their own thing now. You know, it kind of annoys me when companies insist on putting all these safety features in for states that don't even care about its people's rights. You know, I say screw those states, but whatever. Oh, another thing that I forgot, and I don't even use this on this pistol, so that's why I forgot, but there is an internal lock. I don't believe this is on the Mark IV either. There's an internal lock. If you can see this little hole right here, it's kind of like a little Torx screw type head in there, and the gun comes with a little key or a couple little keys that you can stick in there, turn it, and you can lock the bolt up, I think, and you can't use the gun. Another, in my opinion, useless safety feature. You know, some of these Rugers have them. I think Tauruses have them. In fact, I know Tauruses have them because I have one. But just something that I think they're doing away with because they're done appeasing all these different states. So anyway, that's the Mark I, Mark II, and Mark III. I don't have a Mark IV. I will get one eventually and do another video with that. The Mark IV, in my opinion, has a really good advantage over all three of these, and that has to do with taking the guns apart, because all these guns are a bitch to take apart. And you know, I struggle with them because they're, you know, I've only ever tried to take that one apart, but it's really difficult, and I hate having to do it, but you got to do it to clean the gun, and I don't know, man. The Mark IV cleared a lot of that up, and now it's just really easy to take it apart. But if you want one of these older pistols, I obviously wouldn't fault you for it, because I have all three of them myself, and they're all three good pistols, and in my opinion, some of the best .22 pistols. They just really suck to take apart. Anyway, subscribe to my channel, like me on Facebook. I'm Redneck Mini 14, and until next time, be safe.